Dear Princess Celestia, I want to take the ears off, but I can't. I hop, and when I do, I never get off the ground. Something. I'll save you the rest of that letter. Hi, this is Dragonkeeper 96600, and welcome to another movie review. It's the fall season. Not a whole lot is coming out. I think some other movie came out recently that people might care about or something. It's got like Indiana Solo in it or something. Anyway, but that's not the movie I saw because I'm weird. This weekend I actually saw My Little Pony, which came out yesterday. It'll have been 2 days ago by the time you see this video. Yeah, My Little Pony, the movie, since we're so fond of colons nowadays. As you are probably aware, this is not the first time that My Little Pony has been in the theater. The first My Little Pony movie actually came out in the 80s in connection with the Generation 1 TV show. And this is a bit of trivia. It actually came out the exact same weekend as Transformers the movie. So apparently Hasbro had these two toy properties, one for boys, one for girls, and thought it was a good idea to release both movies the same weekend to sort of get as many, kids in the theaters as possible. Only one movie depressed kids enough to make them shut in their rooms and refuse food, but guess which one actually did better at the box office? If you guess My Little Pony, sorry. Yes, My Little Pony actually beat Transformers the movie. But guess which one I now own? So, suck it. So anyway, My Little Pony the movie. How did it do this time around? Probably not going to be beating many films at the box office for its premiere weekend. But there is one other movie that I do want to talk about in connection with this movie. I know it's not Transformers. It's actually Ninjago. As you might be aware, I covered Ninjago on my channel a couple weeks ago when the movie came out. And even though these two movies are pretty different and were probably targeted for different audiences, I can't help but compare them. Not just but because they came in with less than a month apart, but also because they're both based off of TV shows that are themselves based off of toy properties, and both of them have managed to attract a large, basically they've attracted an audience outside of their target demographic. So, not only that, but as I watched the movie, I discovered that they both had kind of similar plot structures. Both of them involve a group of large ensemble of characters going on a journey to save their land from an invasive or dangerous force that only appeared in this movie. Kind of a basic structure for a kids film. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like default kids film probably has that structure, or default Fatal Fury movie. Anyway, so basic plot. How does My Little Pony pull it off? Okay, let me be clear. There is one major difference between this movie and Ninjago, and that's, while Ninjago is clearly meant to be an intro for people who are unfamiliar with the franchise and is a separate continuity from the show, the My Little Pony movie clearly is supposed to follow from the Friendship is Magic show. It has a clear spot in the canon. And the movie opens with several developments that are part of the show's canon that weren't true when the show began. So Twilight is a princess in this, the Princess of Friendship, and a bunch of villains from past seasons cameo, since the default fate for My Little Pony villains is that they're redeemed through the power of friendship. It's kind of what the show is about. So, this clearly takes place in the show's run. This is slotted into the timeline of the show. Because of that, I feel like the movie doesn't really read as an intro. Not that it's trying to be, but I know there are a lot of parents who are probably dragged to see this movie and are not really gonna... it's debatable how successful Ninjago was at introing people into the movie, but regardless, My Little Pony just kind of tosses you in. It's not like the canon is so complicated that people who are unfamiliar with My Little Pony at all can't follow it, but if you watch My Little Pony early on, stopped watching it, and then came back in, you're going to be kind of lost. Not sure why a person like that would see this movie, but regardless. Let me start with the plot. So basically, Twilight is throwing this festival of friendship, which I guess is part of her duty as the Princess of Friendship. That is her actual title. And she's preparing this party, and she's nervous because she doesn't feel like she can pull it off, and this plotline is getting kind of old at this point.
why does Twilight still think of herself as the weakling of the four princesses? Like, you know how many times she's had to save their asses while they get captured, kidnapped, or somehow incapacitated? Like, she's done more than the other three combined. Like, okay, anyway, she asked the other three princesses, Celestia, Luna, and her sister-in-law, Cadence, that's her name, if they could help her basically set up the stage for this one pony who's going to be performing. Basically, it's a singer, pop star pony who's going to be performing at this festival. And this character is actually voiced and based off of Sia, the singer, right? The one who is always wearing the wig that covers her eyes. You know, Chandelier, Cheap Thrills. That Sia is in this movie. Something that my fellow students at grad school didn't seem to believe when I told them. So yeah, her name is Songbird Serenade, but this is clearly Sia, but as a Pegasus. So anyway, Twilight asked the other three princesses if they could, if Celestia, who controls the movement of the sun, could hold the sun at a certain angle, Luna could hold the moon at a certain angle, Cadence could create crystals to reflect the light and make it look pretty. All three princesses say no. And what they basically tell her is that Twilight doesn't need their magic to pull this off because she's the princess of friendship and she should believe in herself. But what it read to me as was, bitch, stay off my turf. Like, I know that's not the best way to put it, but it seemed like they were chafing at Twilight telling them what to do. It's like, you guys are taller than Twilight. That's all you have over her. Like, she's literally saved your ass so many times. Like, who's the one who gathered the elements of harmony to beat Nightmare Moon? Who's the one who gave them up to the tree to save you from the tendril things Discord planted? Who's the one who beat King Sombra so that Cadence could accept her throne? Like, this is such bullshit. But anyway, so Twilight is able to pull off the festival pretty smoothly with the help of her friends. And if you don't know the show, I'll just run off their names right now. There's Rarity, the diva, who is a fashion designer. There's Pinkie Pie, who is a ball of can't sit still for 2 seconds. There's Applejack, the down-home orchard farmer. Fluttershy, who is, well, shy and also loves animals. Spike, her dragon friend. And Rainbow Dash, her tomboy. Her tomboy, like she owns her. Rainbow Dash is the tomboy. So basically, they use their talents to make the festival, and it's going great. When suddenly, this giant dark ship descends from the sky, run by, apparently owned by a warlord who calls himself the Storm King. And this pony comes out, who is his second in command, and basically what happens, and this happens really quick, is that she captures the other three princesses with the intent of getting all four to channel all of their magic into some kind of super weapon. Twilight barely gets away with her friend's help, and they decide to set off on this journey because they heard Celestia telling Luna to seek out the queen of the hippo, and then she gets cut off. So the friends foolishly set off in search of the queen of the hippos, because they're idiots, which is apparently beyond the Badlands, which are on the outside of Equestria. Now, I haven't seen the show in a while, but I was able to recognize this as kind of a big deal. I don't recall in the show them ever actually leaving Equestria. Equestria was always kind of the place where everything took place. So the fact that they're straying outside was kind of like, oh yeah, if you're going to have a movie about going outside of Equestria, that's big enough to be a movie. But they don't treat it as big enough. We don't really see much what's beyond Equestria, except that it seems like outside of Equestria, life is tougher and shittier, just in general. Like, they have to cross through, the scorching desert first, and then they arrive in a town that looks like it's Mos Eisley on Tatooine, and then they, go through the sky and don't really see much of the... So, yeah, if it's an exploration of what's outside Equestria, it's it kind of falls flat. But anyway... So, one thing that did bother me about this movie is how sudden the villain intro was. Literally, there was no hint that anything life-threatening would happen in this movie. The first shot of the film is the camera in the sky following the track of the Pegasi as they sweep through the clouds, and then it opens in the kingdom, and then they're preparing for the festival. It's happy, happy, joy, joy. And then out of nowhere, a villain comes in a huge warship, and everything goes to shit. And they kind of set it up where Twilight is like, this is my daughter's wedding and I don't want anything to go wrong. That kind of thing where she's like fretful about how she won't be able to pull off this party. I've already explained why that's stupid. And, she wants everything to be perfect because that'll prove that she's, capable. Again, stupid. But, like, that just seems like it's leading up to a joke of it not going well and not actually, like, a hostile enemy will invade. But anyway, let me talk about the villain's second in command, who actually functions in a weird way as the villain through most of this movie. Her name is Tempest, Commander Tempest, and basically she's a unicorn with a broken horn. And she's voiced by Emily Blunt, who is one of our celebrities. Now, one of the things that sets this movie apart from Ninjago is that while both movies have like large celebrity casts that were brought in just for the movie that aren't in the show, but unlike Ninjago, My Little Pony actually keeps the same voice actors for the main characters that are from the show. And I gotta say, it was kind of cool to hear all these Canadian voice actors that I've been hearing all my life in like cartoons and anime in like a major motion theatrical picture. Like Tara Strong, Tabitha St. Germain, Mark Oliver, who weirdly enough is the TV voice of Garmadon Ninjago. He didn't get to be in the Ninjago movie, but he got to be in the My Little Pony movie. Life is stupid. So basically, Emily Blunt, celebrity. She voices Tempest. Tempest is kind of hilarious to me because she's like really like serious and haughty, and like half of her dialogue is threats. And she like kicks ass because she's this pony who can like she takes down a guy at one point like 5 times her size by kicking him a lot like a horse does. And like anytime she says anything, she's like got this like deep womanly voice that the other characters don't have. And like what I thought was kind of funny during the movie is that she constantly like is holding her head up like this in a way most other characters don't. So it's like anytime she talks, it's like, look at my chin. Look at it. Whelps. But basically, she's got the broken horn and the scar across her eye, and it's kind of intimidating. And so I already guessed this at the start of the movie because knowing My Little Pony, it's not hard to predict this structure. I figured that she would be redeemed through the power of friendship because that's kind of the fate of most of the villains of My Little Pony. They either get sealed underground so they won't be a problem for a while until they emerge again, or they're redeemed through the power of friendship. That's what happens to the vast majority of antagonists in the show, except for Sombra and that weird centaur thing, and Chrysalis. But aside from them, like everybody else, no matter how terrible they do, what terrible things they do, all they get away with is a slap on the wrist. And that kind of holds for this movie, even more so because they kind of have, this movie has a road trip structure, the way the movies like Brave Little Toaster or Moana do. But, so, like, the ponies travel through the Badlands, and they meet a lot of characters along the way, and they actually, it's divided into, like, sections based on location and character. So, the first guy they meet is a furry named Capper. He's actually, like, an anthropomorphic cat, because apparently in this Tatooine city I mentioned earlier, it isn't inhabited by ponies because it's outside of Equestria, which Equestria refers to horses, so if you're gonna go out there, like, people aren't horses anymore. So this town is occupied entirely by furries, and it's actually kind of cool to see, like, this realm of, like, other animals that have existed on the fringes of the show all this time. There's, like, one that looks like a frilled lizard. That's kind of cool. So they meet a cat named Capper. Then later they meet a griffin named, I don't remember her name, but they meet a griffin pirate. And then they go to the land of the hippogriffs because they're idiots and don't realize that hippos probably don't have the power to help them. And they meet a princess there named Skystar. I think that's her name, something like that. And basically, the sections of the movie can be broken up by those characters, and the mini arcs is the ponies befriend them and they help them on their way. And that's basically the structure of the movie. Now, basically this movie, let me start off with Capper. So, because I think Capper's arc specifically articulates what I feel like is wrong with this movie, what its major flaw is. So basically, When they arrive in this not Tatooine town, they find that it's a really shady looking slum. In a way that might be a little unfortunate. But anyway, and they basically find that all the animal people there engage in this, like, basically this culture where they barter constantly. Like, Twilight is walking by, and literally this one guy is standing in the stall. He's like, hey, how much do you want for your horn? Like, sell me your horn. And Twilight, like, holds her head down and walks past. It was, like, way more unsettling than I was expecting. It's like, sell me your horn. Your wife, your daughter, sell them to me. And, like, that's everything. So they, like, everybody in town is like that. So they, like, ask people, like, how much, like, if anyone can help them find the queen of the hippos. And basically everyone in town is like, what will you give me for it? Like, they ask them to sell them Spike. They ask them to sell them their hair. Like, it's weird. But then they meet Capper, who is able to chase away the other criminals by, and this is kind of funny, by saying that the ponies are carrying a disease. And what he points out to say that their disease is they're actually way more brightly colored than any of the denizens in this city. Basically pointing out the difference in design between the kid-friendly ponies and these scary, like, shady-looking baddies. He was like, look how bright they are. That's not natural. Like, he actually says that. I thought that was a little funny that they're poking fun of the design like that. But anyway, he scares off the ponies and has, like, this big song about, like, how they can trust him. He's their friend, and you obviously know where this is going. He can't be trusted. And it turns out he's actually planning to sell them to a guy to pay off his debt. Debt for what? We don't know. This is, like, really quickly passed over. And, so basically, he's keeping them at his house until the guy he wants to sell them to can come and pick them up. But, like, while they're there, right, waiting to be sold, they don't know that, but Rarity actually fixes up Capper's coat because it was kind of threadbare, because he's, like, a poor guy living on the slums, and he's also a cat, and it's kind of a stereotype. You saw Pinocchio, right? He, like, fixes up his coat, does nice buttons, and he immediately gets suspicious, like, why are you doing that? What do you want for it? She's like, well, I'm just doing it to thank you for helping us here. And that alone is enough to make him heel-face turn. So when the guy that he wants to sell our main characters to, and the villains show up, Capper is suddenly, like, super, like, contrite and immediately, like, a good guy and doesn't cooperate with the villains and tries to throw them off the pony's track so that they can't get them. Because Rarity fixed his coat. That's all. It's not like the ponies forgave him. Things happened so fast they didn't have time. Like, they do forgive him later, but not at the moment. Like, he just decides to help them because Rarity fixed his coat. Okay, like, first of all, Capper, you know the concept of people doing things without reward, without expecting a reward, because you yourself fooled our main characters into thinking that's what you were doing by pretending that you were their friend and helping them out of the interests of your own heart. You know that people like that exist, or you wouldn't have tried this gambit. Second of all it takes is to like, how does someone who's willing to sell a sentient creature into slavery immediately go to, I need to help these people because one of them fixed your coat? That's what slaves do, asshole. They fix your shit. Like, maybe it sounds like I'm being harsh, but this heel-face turn came way too easily. And that seems to be the main huge problem with the My Little Pony movie. The emotions in it run very shallowly. Like, character turns happen really easily without much effort. None of the characters seem to put any effort into what they're feeling and never seem to feel it deeply. And it seems like it can be very easily changed. And that happens again and again. When Tempest is redeemed, it's unsatisfying. When they meet other characters and they get over their fear and decide to help them, it's really unsatisfying. Even the ponies themselves seem like they're just going through the motions of acting out their normal personalities. I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm watching sentient creatures. So let me talk about the villains a little bit more. So I've mentioned the villain is called the Storm King. He doesn't appear in most of the movie, and I think that's kind of a waste, because the main antagonistic force after them is Tempest. Like, she's the one who follows them from location to location. She's the one who makes threats. She's the face of the movie's, like, very confused message of friendship is good, which is, like, you needed a whole movie to say that. That's what the past, like, such and such seasons of the show have been telling us. But anyway, she's, like, the personification of, you know, friendship is worthless. Like, she's the main face of that obstacle. And, but the villain, the Storm King, actually shows signs of being an interesting villain. Like, he doesn't get the chance to be interesting, but there's a sense that he could be. Basically, I don't know, he's like a giant snow monkey looking thing. Like, he's covered in white fur. He looks kind of monkeyish. He's got, like, sharp teeth and like a monkey like face, but he's got, like, horns, antler things. So that's weird. And he's got, like, this really goofy personality, even though he's, like, this threatening guy who enslaves several of the characters, successfully captures the 3 princesses, and, like, even though he wanted 4, his forces managed to get 3. He's got these huge armies. People are scared of what will happen to them to defy them. 20 minutes into the film, he's got, like, most of the denizens of Equestria, like, with, like, bridles and making them, like, pull his shit like they're actually domestic horses. I'm like, for all that scariness, he's, like, a really kind of funny, bubbly guy. Like, you see him early on worried about, like, his image and saying that he needs to do scarier things because he wants people to be scary. His very first scene, he FaceTimes with Tempest. It's not really FaceTime because they use a cauldron and they talk to each other through the smoke. But as one of the movie's many confused gags, they treat it like a FaceTime. Like, the bottle that they pour the potion into call, like, it actually rings before they pour it in. And, like, the Storm King does this thing where he's like, he doesn't know where to look, so you're just seeing, like, his chin before he figures out where Tempest is. And, like at one point, they meet a group of, like, sailors that have been basically forced into being delivery people for this guy. And they mention that the thing they're delivering is Storm King merchandise. So he's, like, worried about his image. And another quirk he has is that he hates cute. This only comes up in the last act of the film, and I feel like it's a waste. How hilarious would it be to have a My Little Pony villain that hates cute? Like, he's basically at odds with the very genre of the thing that of the story that he's in. Like, shit. Like, what if you were a Disney villain that hated singing? Like, it's like that. Like, that has the potential to be really funny. But he's not on screen that much. Like, he only has a few scenes. Like, maybe 2. Like, honestly. Like, the second scene is most of the climax. But, like, the first scene is just the call. Like, he calls Tempest, tells her, you need to bring me these ponies. And then, like, he doesn't appear again for, like, most of the film until the very end. And, like, it seems like kind of a waste. Because, you know, Emily Blunt does okay as Tempest. She's, I guess, intimidating. She's cool and composed. There's not much to her, but to be honest, there is much. Like, Emily Blunt voices her competently, and she does have kind of this attractive sounding, like, kind of timbre in her voice, but, like, the one I feel like this movie should have focused on was the Storm King, and it wasn't focused on enough, and I don't think we'll get to him in a future movie or episode, but I will save that for later, because that is something that I want to go into detail about. So that's a wasted opportunity. Another thing I want to talk about is that even though Tempest is the second in command, she herself has a sidekick who's like a porcupine thing. And his role in this movie is basically to be the peanut gallery. Like, literally, he's got, like, this very, like, laid-back dude personality, which is, like, kind of stereotypical for a villain. And basically his only role is to comment on things that happen in front of him. Like, oh, yeah, man, you totally said that. Shit, that happened. Like, that's his whole role. It's like, why are you here? Who are you? I looked in the credits. That porcupine guy who basically does nothing but, like, go, whoa, whenever anybody says anything, he's voiced by Michael Pena, another celebrity. And what's even sadder is that his role as the totally superfluous porcupine thing, he gets way more dialogue than he does as Kai in the Ninjago movie. something is wrong. Like, that is a serious flaw with both movies. If the superfluous sidekick is talking too much here, and one of the main characters doesn't talk enough here. Like, it's like, both movies need to change something if that's happening, because Michael Pena is like, he's a talented actor. He can be funny, he can be serious. Like, you need to stop shafting him like this. Sorry, it's just... So yeah, the villains, as they are, don't really bring anything that any other villain in the show's run couldn't bring. And this is... Okay. This movie is kind of generic. And by generic, I mean generic Disney. Like, I don't think I said this already. I'll say it now if I haven't. This movie is basically Hasbro trying to be Disney. This is his Hasbro tries Disney. And it's there in the structure, like the lone heroine struggling against the villain in this magical scenario. It's very bright and colorful. There are songs every couple minutes. Well, not every couple minutes. It's not like Raggedy Ann and Andy frequency, but like, you know, there are songs at every major beat in the story. And like they use the power of friendship and like, you know, like this movie feels very Disney-ish. And but it feels like a very generic Disney movie. Like if you were to ask someone to describe like what's the plot of your average Disney movie? Well, you've got a princess and she's got to save the day and she learns a lesson about herself and like there are songs and like, you know, she has animal companions and stuff. It's like, okay, now put ponies into that exact story without changing anything. Like My Little Pony the movie. So because of that, like, okay, there's like this joke that, and it's kind of a joke, kind of a criticism with a lot of movies that are based on TV shows, that the movie basically doesn't do anything that the TV show wasn't doing already. So you're basically paying extra money to see something that you could normally see for free. Like, they made fun of this at the beginning of the Simpsons movie, which ironically itself got the exact same criticism when Homer is like, everyone in this theater is a sucker, especially you. Like, maybe we're all suckers, because this movie, like, does it do anything that the show doesn't do? Even the main six having to save Equestria from a huge supernatural threat. There have been episodes that have that. And, like, My Little Pony has a pretty wide-ranging list of episode topics. Like, some episodes are, like, huge. Like, we have to save the day from the villain or else everything good and wholesome in this world will collapse. And then they have some episodes that are like, man, I need to get in shape for the sports meet. Or, I wonder what pet I should get next. Or, gee, I got to get ready for the fashion show next week. Or, it's almost midnight and I haven't finished my homework. You know, stuff like that. So, like, they veer between, like, mundane but still fun stories about stuff that the audience would be familiar with. And then, like, end-of-the-world stakes. So when they have a movie, they, like, maybe they figure they have to do end-of-the-world stakes, but the result is just a long episode. And it's an episode that isn't paced as well as some of the actual episodes. Like, in some of the episodes of the show, when the ponies were in danger, I felt like they were in danger. Like, the Discord two-parter that opened season 2, that felt huge. And it felt like the ponies were, like, feeling more than they are now. They just, like, it seemed like they cared about what was going to happen. And, like, this movie seems like it's rushed, which is weird because it's not even that long. And it's a movie, so you think they'd have time to take it slow a bit. But, whatever. Actually, because the idea of wandering out of Equestria is treated so uninterestingly, and because the characters aren't fleshed out enough, I felt like this would be a movie that I'd be okay if they stayed in Equestria the whole time. And not only that, if it were a movie where the stakes weren't end of the world. Because, like, just a slice of life movie with talking ponies would probably be interesting. I mean, Japan made an Animal Crossing movie that was basically that. It was slice of life with animals. They went through their day, the seasons passed, they did things. It was Winnie the Pooh, but it was Animal Crossing. Like, that structure would have worked for My Little Pony. And because of that, I found, like, the first part of the movie before the villain showed up was actually, I was kind of enjoying it. Like, I wasn't blown away or anything. But actually, like, you know, the first in this movie where the ponies are preparing for that festival thing, is rife with cameos, like so many cameos. Like every background pony that the fans have fixated over the years is there. Derpy Hooves is there. The Doctor is there, and he even has a green bow tie for the occasion. We got Carrot Cake, we got Lyra and Bon Bon. We even have Cheesecake, who's Weird Al's pony. It's weird that they have Weird Al's pony cameo in a movie full of celebrities, but they don't actually give a role to Weird Al. Like, Cheesecake doesn't have any lines, but he's there. Discord even cameos in the credits. And, like, I was wondering if Discord was be in this movie, and I'm a little disappointed to say that he doesn't have a major role. He does cameo. I mentioned that villains from previous arcs, other villains from previous arcs cameo, like Trixie is there. That one Equalist pony that I don't remember the name of is there. Like Sunset Shimmer, is that her name? Maybe that's someone else. I don't know. She's pink, and she's got like the blue and green mane. Anyway, she's there. They don't have lines, but they cameo, and I kind of have fun pointing out the cameos. And, you know, we get to see the main six, and we get to see their personalities, and they cooperate to bring up the festival. And, you know, it's kind of fun, happy, and then the villain happens, and they go on this long quest, and it's like, eh. Not that the quest is totally a drag from beginning to end, but it didn't feel kind of dull and uninspired. Here's another thing. I'm gonna bring back Ninjago again. Both My Little Pony and Ninjago have ensemble casts, and they have large casts with their beloved characters from the TV show. What My Little Pony manages to do that Ninjago doesn't is that the personalities of the main characters from the show are still very clearly distinguishable. Like, Twilight is obviously our main character, but, like, we get the personality of all the other ponies. Like, we get that Fluttershy is shy, and, you know, she's a wilting flower, and she's the most sensitive of the group. And we get that Rarity is a diva, and she's overly dramatic, and she has scenes where she's fussing over her appearance or overreacting to something. We get that Pinkie Pie is basically ecstasy personified as a person, or pony, who is a person. And we get that Rainbow Dash is cocky and loyal. Like, a Rainbow Dash represents the element of loyalty. Like, if you're not familiar with My Little Pony, I don't know where you'd be watching this if you're not familiar with My Little Pony, but basically, all the ponies have a quality of friendship that they embody. Rainbow Dash's is loyalty, and I do kind of like that when Twilight says, I've got to go on this journey to save the day. Rainbow Dash is the first to volunteer to go with her. And, you know, we get that Spike is kind of the normal guy of the group who's, like, fussing over everybody, and also kind of the butt monkey. With Ninjago, the other ninja kind of got sidearmed in favor of the main plot with Lloyd and Garmadon. Here, all the ponies are allowed to flourish, and many of them have their moments. Like, Rarity contributes by winning over Capper. Rainbow Dash contributes by winning over the pirates that they meet in the sky. Remember I mentioned the shippers who are forced to work for the Storm King? She's the one who wins them over to their side. Pinkie Pie, when they finally meet the hippogriffs, who now live underwater as sea ponies, when they finally meet them, Pinkie Pie is the one who befriends the princess. Applejack and Fluttershy, they're two, I guess. Okay, Applejack and Fluttershy don't really contribute anything special, but, like, you know, even they, as little as they do, still have distinguishable personalities and still have lines and jokes that reference only them. And I do like that they're able to make jokes like that. Like, there's one moment when, like, they're first found by the pirates, and, like, they're, like, saying, like, what should we do to them? Like, we should tie them up or, like, beat them up or something. Like, they say, we should scar them. And Rarity goes, ah! And then he goes, emotionally. And the Fluttershy goes, ah! I thought that was funny. Like, this type of joke you're making about the characters' personalities that I feel like is funnier to you if you've known these characters for a long time. So, yeah, but, here's the but. With that, the story becomes less focused. Because you have more characters and they all have more screen time and bring their own thing, the story doesn't have the central core that the Ninjago movie did. Like, I said this in my review, if I wanted Ninjago the movie to pick one thing from the show to focus on, I would want them to pick the exact thing that they picked, which is the relationship between Lloyd and Garmadon. I found that was the most interesting, and I felt like that was where the soul of the show was, and I felt like that's where having a movie where that's the soul of the movie makes sense. My Little Pony doesn't have a central soul. The main arc seems to be if Twilight worries if she's competent enough to be a princess, which is something that I feel like the show has already solved. Like, it was already proven way back in the Discord Seed arc that, yes, you are capable of doing this. Why are we having a movie dedicated to it? But the movie isn't really dedicated to it. Not really. It's just kind of a thing that sometimes gets mentioned. So there doesn't seem to be a central goal except stop the bad guy. And even that doesn't feel focused because there is no bad guy. So it's a choice between either a varied cast where they all appear to have central personalities, or have a cast that most of them get shafted, but there is a central thing that people care about. There's like these two extremes of having a large cast is either most of them get ignored, or like one of them. Am I recording? Yeah. Sorry, I had to freak out. I thought I wasn't recording, but I am recording. But anyway, or like all of them get the spotlight, but the story suffers as a result. And I feel like it is possible to reconcile those two things because the Lego Movie, which is my favorite movie ever, isn't a goddamn masterpiece, has a very large cast, and they all have varied personalities, and all of them have fan bases to this day, but they were still able to stay with the central soul of the movie, which is Emmett and his quest to be special. Like, that's still the main thing, and that still deeply moves you, but all of the other characters aren't just superfluous and just there to fill up a roster sheet, nor do they crowd it so much that Emmett's story gets drowned out. Like, Lego Movie is the perfect balance between what these two movies are trying to do. Look me go. Not only that, but the ponies' personalities themselves, they're not great. Like, especially Pinkie Pie. Like, I know Pinkie Pie has fans, but I know there are a lot of people who criticize her. And I haven't seen the show in a while, but this movie kind of made me understand why. Pinkie Pie is so kooky. Like, I said in my Ninjago review that Master Wu is kooky to the point where you're not sure if there's a sentient mind underneath the kookiness. Pinkie Pie is that times 12. Like, it is ridiculous. She is constantly smiling, constantly making an off-putting remark, and never seems to know where she is or what's going on. Like, I don't remember Pinkie Pie being like Grr. I do remember her being like a thinking like person, and that is not coming through in this movie. Like, okay, when that huge, ominous ship pulls in above Equestria and, like, there's thunder booming and it's, like, black and ominous and full of, like, sharp lines, Pinkie Pie's like, this is Pinkie Pie's actual line. She's like, oh, I bet those are the clowns I ordered, like, for the party. Like, Pinkie Pie? Why the fuck would you think that? Does that look like a clown car to you? What's wrong with you? Like, that's so inane. It doesn't even make sense. Like, as it pulls in slowly and squashes, like, an actual clown cart, that's confusing. Pinkie Pie goes, I don't think those are the clowns I ordered. Like, really? Like, we're reaching Ed levels of obliviousness. Like, Pinkie Pie isn't quite as dumb as Ed, but she does have the same level of, like, goonish obliviousness. Like, she just always has... Like, there's one scene later where they're trying, after Twilight's been captured, because of course she's been captured. That's kind of the rule for this movie. If the villains are threatening to do something, they're obviously going to accomplish what they're threatening to do. But anyway, they basically have this plan to sneak back into the castle with all of them disguised as slave horses pulling a cake. It's really cheap and silly and childish, and it's a very obvious bit that, again, seems very generic Disney. But anyway, as they're walking in, all of them are, like, playing the part and have their eyes downcast and their heads low, except for Pinkie Pie, who is smiling brightly as they walk into town. And even, like, I think Applejack kicks her, and she's like, Pinkie Pie, you're supposed to stop smiling so brightly, you're going to give us away. It's like, what is wrong with you, Pinkie Pie? Like, oh my gosh. There's one part where, like, okay, this is a scene I actually like. Basically, they're under the hull, like they're in the cargo hold of the pirate ship, and they need to think of a quick way to get out because Tempest is searching the deck above. And it's only a matter of time before either A, they find them, or B, they punish the pirates who help them, but are now trying to hide them. Twilight actually seemed worried that the pirates would give away their location, so not totally believing in friendship, are we, friendship princess? But anyway, so what Twilight does, and I kind of love this scene, she opens the hull of the ship, grabs a couple of planks of wood and like some rope and a sail, and just dumps everybody out into the sky. And they're like screaming, especially Rarity, who is, by the way, my favorite of the main six. I decided as of this movie. They're like plummeting through the air. Rarity is screaming her head off, and like Twilight very quickly assembles a hot air balloon in like the span of like a few seconds that they all land in. Like that was her plan. Keep in mind, she did not tell anyone else that she was gonna do that. She's just like, quick, I need some stuff. Okay, got it, bye. I'm Twilight Sparkle, and this is Jackass. Anyway, but during that scene, as they're plummeting to their death, and they have no idea what's going on, Pinkie Pie is like squealing like she's on a roller coaster. She's like, yeah! She goes through the air. It's like, oh my God, Pinkie Pie, you might have bigger thrill-seeking issues than Rainbow Dash. Like, you're freaking me out a little bit. What are you? I'm scared. So yeah, Pinkie Pie's, I'm not feeling Pinkie Pie. Another person who gets a lot of criticism is Rainbow Dash, who, fittingly enough, gets shipped a lot with Pinkie Pie. Like, this fandom's been around a while, everyone gets shipped with everyone, but Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash, I remember being a particularly popular pairing. Anyway, Rainbow Dash, she's not as rude, not as selfish as she's been in some other movies, but God, is she thick. There's one point where, like, after the pirates, who I've mentioned a lot, decide to help them, Rainbow Dash decides to celebrate her joy. She's going to do a sonic rain boom around, move the camera, a sonic rain boom around the ship. Basically, if you don't know, a sonic rain boom is basically Rainbow Dash goes so fast that she hits Mach speed and a huge, like, rainbow tail, like, just explosion of light comes out of her tail. And, it's called a sonic rain boom because it's like a sonic boom, but with rainbows. It's basically, pretty awesome. She decides to do that around the ship. Why is that a bad idea? Because they're being followed by Tempest, of course. And even Twilight is, like, trying to tell her, like, no, Rainbow Dash, don't! But, like, Rainbow Dash doesn't listen and does the sonic rain boom. Guess what? Michael Pena's porcupine guy sees that, they follow the ship, and they almost get killed, which leads to Twilight doing the earlier Jackass stunt I mentioned. And sabotages Capper's efforts to throw the villains off the wrong track. All because Rainbow Dash just had to show off, I guess. For no reason. A lot of things seem to happen in this movie for no reason. And that ties in again with the earlier problem I mentioned of the character turns and emotional changes being really easy. So, like, how do they save the pirates? Basically, this is kind of funny too. Basically, they come into the ship that are clearly is full of, the pirates are clearly, like, at this point aligned with the Storm King. Like, they've got his logo on their clothes and on the sail, and, like, they're on an airship, by the way. Wait, I think you knew that already. But anyway, it's clearly very ominous, so they eventually decide we need to throw them overboard. But then as they're about to do that, the lunch bell rings, and they all have a lunch break, and they bring the ponies and Spike with them. So like, they're all sitting there at, like, this lunch table where the people who were just trying to kill them now are just chilling and eating gruel next to them, and they're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and so basically, the pirates reveal that, yeah, they only work for, the Storm King because they're being forced to, and this is their only lunch break, so they don't have to work meaning be evil, when they're on break. So they're just like, as soon as break's over, they are planning to throw them overboard, but for now, let's just eat, because this is, like, we only get an hour per day. That is, like, the most literal version of punch clock villain, the trope punch clock villain that I've ever seen in a movie. Like, literally, when the bell rings, they're done being evil. But basically, Rainbow Dash learns that they used to be pirates, and she encourages them to, like, give up working for Storm King, and regardless of the consequences, they're going to go back to being pirates. That was way too easy. Like, they were afraid of something bad happening to them if they defied the Storm King. What exactly were they afraid of? Why didn't it happen? And why were they able to throw off that fear so quickly just because some blue horse told them to? Like, I don't get it. Like, this movie is clearly intended for children. And I probably shouldn't be nitpicking it this much. But if you're going to make something for children, make it, like, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask it to make sense. Like, if they're scared of something bad happening to them, what about Rainbow Dash singing a song all of a sudden makes them not scared? I mean, it was a cool song, but, like, cool songs don't save you from death, if that even is the risk. Like, when Tempest finds out that the pirates betrayed her, she blows up the ship with them and Capper on it. But later in the movie, after Twilight gets captured and the ponies are sitting around, all is lost, Capper suddenly appears with the pirates. They're totally fine. How are they fine? Fuck you. That's how. I don't think they actually say how. They just say they blew up our ship and blasted us out of the sky. Okay, how did that not kill you? Like, I don't get it. Also, when they find the hippogriffs, who have used this magic orb to transform themselves into sea ponies so that they can live safe from the Storm King's influence, which begs the question, the Storm King has been running around long enough to force an entire race to move into the water. Why haven't we seen him or heard of him sooner? Like, do the princesses just not care? Do they not keep in touch with the Queen of the Hippogriffs, who they apparently know well enough to contact an emergency like this? Like, I don't know. But whatever. The Queen of the Hippogriffs is at first upset at Princess Skystar for bringing in the rest of the ponies. Then she allows them to stay, and she tells Skystar not to tell them their origin story, which is what I just told you. Skystar tells them anyway, and Queen Nova just kind of lets them. Lets her. Like, I try to tell you not to, and then whatever. And then Twilight sees this orb thing that they have, which can transform ponies into anything. Basically, it's what turns the rest of the ponies into sea ponies. And so Twilight and her friends are basically mermaids now. Mer-ponies? Whatever. And Twilight's like, this must be what Princess Celestia wanted us to get. We can use this to transform everyone into like something really powerful so we can fight off the Storm King. But the Queen Nova won't give it up. So here's what Twilight does. She sends Pinkie Pie, okay, so Skystar is very, very lonely and kind of, like, neurotically so. And she obviously wanted the rest of the ponies to hang out with them, but they're like, oh, we kind of got a country in peril that we got to get back to saving. Skystar's like, oh, okay. Like, so Twilight's like, Pinkie Pie, you go have fun with Princess Skystar for just a few minutes before we leave. So Pinkie Pie goes off to do that, and, like, she sings a song with all the other ponies except Twilight, who's hung back. And they, like, you know, they play together and, like, all this stuff. Queen Nova sees them playing together, and from seeing them play together, she decides to go ahead and hand over the orb. Even though in the previous scene, she said that part of the reason she didn't want to hand it over is because she didn't want the Storm King to get a hold of it. But seeing her daughter on a play date with these people totally changes her mind instantly. Like, that's not enough. Like, every time these characters have an emotional change, I always feel like that's not enough. And, like, it even goes to the next scene, which is, like, the downbeat. For those of you who don't know, every movie has a way down beat. They call this, this is the 7th beat of a movie out of 9, and it's called the dark night of the soul, or the moment of despair. It's basically where the character has their very lowest moment in the film. When Emmett realizes he's not the special. When Moana realizes she's not the special. Let me see. What other examples are there? But anyway, it's an example in every movie. When Jack Black is found out that he's not actually a substitute teacher, he's just a loser in School of Rock. Like, it's the moment where everything is collapsed and the hero is, like, have their very lowest moment and they have to pick themselves up at the next moment. Here's what this movie's Beat 7 is. While Pinkie Pie was having fun with Princess Skystar and Queen Nova decided to let them have the orb for reasons I will never be able to fathom, Twilight was trying to steal it. Yeah, she actually sent Pinkie Pie without telling her to distract the princess and the queen so she could grab the orb herself. She gets caught before she can do that, and Queen Nova rightfully kicks the main six and Spike out of her kingdom. And because of this, Twilight and Pinkie Pie get into a huge fight. And, Twilight, they're, like, ranting at each other, and, like, Pinkie Pie's like, you didn't believe in friendship, I was about to get the orb, and then you messed it up by trying to steal. We didn't know you were gonna steal it, and how dare you use us like this, like, all this stuff. Twilight's like, look, I've got to do the best for my people, and it sounds like this might be heading in, like, an actual argument, and maybe a cool arc for Twilight. Like, how cool would it be if this movie was about Twilight becoming more unethical as a ruler because of her responsibilities as princess, and she's willing to, like, push more boundaries than she would have before, which is a character trait she has displayed in the past. Like, I use, like, the ends justify the means type of person. Basically, what if this movie was about Princess Twilight turning into Princess Bubblegum? That would be a great movie and a great arc. Here's what happens instead. They get in this fight, and Twilight basically yells at Pinkie Pie something like, maybe I'd be better off without friends like you. And this causes all of her friends to abandon her and walk off the other side of the beach that they got kicked onto. And Twilight, like, mopes by herself, like, I've ruined everything, what's wrong with me? It's like, I'm watching this movie, maybe this wasn't what I was supposed to feel, or maybe it was, because Twilight was caught stealing a super powerful mega weapon. But what I was thinking in that movie was, no shit, you ruined everything. Like, I would be better off without friends like you. You're the princess of fucking friendship. Like, who was the one who helped you get the elements of harmony and beat Nightmare Moon? Who was the one whose memories of your good times helped you beat Discord? Who was the one who pulled you from the brink of crippling insanity? Who are the ones who helped you defeat the tree that was imprisoning the princesses? Who was the reason that you got the fucking crown and the title? You would be nothing without your friends. You go back and apologize, you horse. You filthy horse. It's like, it just didn't seem earned for her to make a statement like that. And to be fair to the movie, the film treats this more of as a thing Twilight just, like shouted the spur of the moment out of anger, and not something that she actually, like, secretly felt or even meant. Like, even her friends, as they're sitting quietly by themselves afterward, are like, maybe we should go back and talk to Twilight now. Like, it was treated as, like, a thing, like, not this friendship is over, which, like, these ponies have been through, like, so much shit together that, like, it doesn't seem like they could ever be broken apart by just one argument. So it's treated as like a, just like a fight. Like a bad fight, but just a fight. Like, not a friendship ending thing. And even Twilight herself is, like, immediately contrite. Like, why did I say that? What have we done? Oh, I'm the worst. But, like, it still didn't feel earned. And, of course, when she's by herself, this is when she gets grabbed by Tempest. Which leads to a funny scene where, like, the ponies are sitting around like, maybe we should go back and, like, apologize to Twilight. And then Spike comes running over like, she's gone! Tempest took her. It's like, we turned her back for 5 minutes! She really is nothing without us. Like, over and over again. Shit happens, it doesn't feel earned. They have an emotion, it doesn't feel like what just happened justifies an emotion. And it follows up with Tempest's heel-face turn. And I'm gonna tell you how it happens. Basically, Tempest tells Twilight her very, very unimpressive backstory. That when she was a child, she was a normal unicorn with a horn that wasn't broken and hideous. And while she was playing with her friends, her ball rolled away. And she went to go chase it, and she accidentally ran into an Ursa Minor who clawed her face. And this is what got her horn cut in half. It's like, an Ursa Minor? Lady, you're lucky that you weren't eaten. I mean, you're the size of a volleyball. That thing could have very easily eaten you. But whatever. Because of her broken horn, her magic is now corrupted and can't function properly. So instead of using spells and being able to levitate things prettily, like most unicorns can, whenever she uses her magic, her horn just explodes. And it sounds like fireworks and shit. The other kids didn't want to play with her anymore because of this. And that alone is enough to make Tempest run away from home, totally give up on her old life, and side with the Storm King, who has promised her that if she can get her all the princesses to charge up his staff to basically have the power of the cosmos at his disposal, if she does that, then he will fix her horn. And because of that backstory, she has given up on friendship and thinks that Twilight is foolish for counting on her friends. Like, so 2 ponies didn't want to play with you because you nearly blew them up. And that's why you ran away from your home and your people and are now hanging out with porcupines and horned monkeys? Who's the one who gave up on her friends? Like, what the fuck? Like, that's, okay. There's good tragic backstories. And then there's that. Like, that's not enough. Over and over again, I say that's not enough. And Twilight, on hearing that story, immediately pities Tempest. And of course, saves her from mortal peril later in the movie. So, not. Earned. Yeah. So Princess Skystar also forgives them for trying to steal from her mother and using her. When Capper shows up with the pirates, they instantly forgive Capper, even though he tried to sell them. And Skystar, when Skystar shows up and starts to come along, it's like, Skystar, you're going to help us. Skystar does nothing for the rest of the movie. Okay, and this is a problem that the Ninjago movie and the My Little Pony movie share, is that they go on this huge journey to get the thing, and both of these movies have this weak-ass reveal that they actually did not need the thing that they were journeying to get. It turns out what saves the day is not the orb, which is never used in the climax. I mean, we do not see it again after Twilight fails to steal it. But, of course, the friends they made along the way. So the pirates and Capper and Skystar's there too, I guess, all band together with our 5 ponies and Spike to save Twilight and stop the bad guy. They didn't need the weapon. They didn't even need to find the hippocampus. All they needed was to make friends with a bunch of strangers. Ninjago did the same thing, where it turns out the ultimate weapon was actually the powers that the ninjas already had, that they knew that they already had. So they went on this whole journey, and in both movies, the journey itself ended up being what saved the day. Lloyd needed to learn the lessons to empathize with his father and unlock everyone's inner potential, and Twilight and her friends needed to make more friends to basically act as reinforcements. But it renders the destination totally moot, and it makes it seem like Celestia was just wasting everyone's time. Indirectly this time, because she was actually trying to waste Luna's time. But Twilight just happened to overhear. Now, other movies have had, the journey is the important part. That was the whole lesson of Cars, for Christ's sake. But the destination also needs to be important, too. Lightning doesn't just straight up give up on the race, which is the destination in Cars. He goes to the race and he races. He doesn't win, and he gives up winning because he realizes winning isn't important, but the race was super important, and he doesn't give up on racing entirely. He still has a passion for that. An even better example is Moana. Moana goes on this huge quest, and basically she's able to calm Ka through learning about her own value, about who she is, and learning how to reach out to others. But she still needed to be at the destination to do that, because that's where Ka was, and she needed to bring the heart to her at the place where she said it was. She couldn't have done that without the journey, which was important and completed her as a person, but she also needed to be at the destination. Neither Twilight nor Lloyd needed to be at the destination to save the day. So it seems like we were wasting our time. Okay. So we're at the climax. Not Tyrek, that's a different guy. Storm King is all powerful and goofy as ever. And I love it when he gets the staff that's loaded with the powers of the 4 princesses. Twilight's power of friendship. Celestia's power of the day. Luna's power of the night. Cadence's power of love and crystals. He's able to use this to his at his every command. What does he do? He fucks around. So he starts to lift the sun, and then he lowers it, and then he lifts the moon, and he lifts the moon and sun in rapid succession. So it's day, night, day, night, day, night. He's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. As he's doing that, I can control the sun. This idiot is gonna blow up the planet. But after that moment of oh my god, the cosmos are in disarray, he's totally gonna rule the universe, we are fucked. After that, what he does is he summons up a huge maelstrom that surrounds the capital of, what's the capital's name again? Canterlot, that's the name of the capital. Where the castle is, Canterlot. And of course he summons a storm because he's King Storm, and he's gotta stick to his brand, right? So the storm is whirling around, and the climax happens at that storm. And after that, basically, he uses the weapon, shoot lightning. That's it. And come on. You've got the power of God in a stick. You could do anything. You could scorch the land and cover it in flames. You could flood Equestria in a tsunami by bringing the moon only a couple 100 yards from the planet's surface. You could spread the hate plague. You could make everyone in Equestria fall in love with you. You have the powers of the gods. You could do anything. And you're You're just gonna Sith lightning with it? Come on, go one-winged angel. Like, he doesn't even go one-winged angel. If you're gonna rip off Disney, at least do that. Such a wasted opportunity. And of course, he portrays Tempest by saying that he was never gonna restore her horn. Fuck off. Now, doesn't it bother you when a movie like chooses not to focus on one of its elements that you find to be the most interesting, but that gets barely any screen time? What exactly is Tempest and the Storm King's relationship? She ran away from home when she was a filly. Did the Storm King raise her? Like, we find out later that Tempest isn't even her real name. She changed her name after she ran away. Was that because of the Storm King? How well did they know each other? How long have they known each other? Like, what inducted her into his army? She's the only pony in his army. Like, I'd be so fascinated to know that backstory instead of the stupid, my friends didn't like me when I was 7 backstory. Like, I don't care if your friends didn't like you when you were 7. How do you become the second in command of a horned monkey? That's what I want to know. But anyway, so basically, even though he doesn't go one-winged angel on him, the allies Twilight has made along the way and Twilight's own efforts and believing in herself managed to get the staff from the Storm King. But this is what I wanted to mention. Remember when I said I don't think Storm King will be reappearing in any future works? Basically, what the Storm King has this power that he basically throws these like ball of crystal things that kind of remind me of like the Soul Dew from Pokemon. He throws them, and basically they hit you, they collapse, and you like crystallize over into stone. So he captured the other 3 princesses that way. Like, he hit them with it, and they froze in place, like petrified. So basically, the main 6 are huddling it out. They've got the staff. It seems the day has won, but the Storm King gets up, throws that at them. And then Tempest sees this, and having been moved by Twilight's earlier act of compassion saving her life, runs toward the Storm King, leaps at him. He hits her with the crystal thing, and then the effect somehow spreads to him. And he's clinging to the edge of the balcony when he does it. So he turns into stone, falls off, plummets toward the ground, and smashes and shatters on the ground. Like, just... And it, like, focuses on his face that's, like, been divided in half from the impact. So, like, it's only from the nose up on his head. Just that fragment lying on the pavement below. It's like, and I'm like, holy shit, they killed him. Like, technically the main 6 did not kill him. They didn't do anything. That was all his fault. But he's fucking dead. Like, that fucker is dead. I'm like, holy shit, what did this guy do to warrant dying? Like, he seemed like this kind of goofy villain. Like, he hates cute. He sticks his tongue out, and Twilight starts talking about friendship. And like, some really nasty baddies in the past have gotten redeemed. Like, Discord got redeemed. That only took 1 episode. The guy who tried to traffic you got redeemed. This guy didn't do anything that no other villain in My Little Pony's ever done. And he's fucking blown apart. Like, oh my god, that was gruesome. Like, I kind of couldn't believe what I was watching, because killing antagonists is not these ponies' normal MO. I was like, whoa, what? What the fuck? He's dead. But they actually do manage to save Tempest, because she's like leaping off the balcony, and she's stoned too, and they manage to pull her back and reverse it so that she doesn't meet the same fate. For a crazy second, I thought that was what was going to happen. Like, they were going to die together. Like, if you wanted to truly emulate Disney, you would have done that, because I could see that happening in Disney film. But anyway. So the day is saved, the villain is dead, Tempest has been redeemed and has learned to trust and have friends again in a way that kind of makes it seem like she might be falling in love with Twilight instead of experiencing her first friendship. Like, the way she talks to her and the way she looks at her at the party afterward is like, yeah, I ship it. But anyway, and there, Sia, Songbird Serenade, is finally able to throw her concert. Yes, so that was the movie. It was generic. It was bland. It was weirdly brutal and had really weird character turns that didn't seem earned. Like, this whole thing doesn't seem earned. Is there anything at all in all my bitching and moaning that I actually unequivocally liked about this movie? The soundtrack. I'm not kidding. All the songs in this film are actually really catchy and fun. Like, all of them. Like, I mentioned a few of the scenes where they happen. Like, and I kind of liked all of them. Like, even the ones that were, like, not my favorite, they still sounded nice. All the singers did well. And, like, it sounded good. This film actually has 2 villain songs. Capper gets one, called The Friend You Need, where he sings about how super trustworthy he is. And then Tempest gets one that's kind of blander and slower, but still nice to listen to, called Open Up Your Eyes. My 2 favorites are the ones that Rainbow Dash sings to rouse the pirates, which is Time to Be Awesome, which basically sums up her entire character. And the very first opening song when the ponies are setting up the festival, which is We Got This Together. So yeah, the song that Sia sings is really nice, which of course it's really nice, it's Sia. And yeah, I've listened to the songs from the soundtrack several times. The animation is also pretty. Like, it's got a lot of bright colors, and it's clear that the filmmakers are showing off their new cinematic budget. The animation of My Little Pony was also very pretty and cute and expressive, but it was done in Flash, and even though it was good Flash animation, it still seemed very stiff and puppety. Like, characters had, like, this puppety kind of a way of moving, and like they had like only specific like very flat angles you would see them from. It wasn't nearly at Johnny Test levels of bad. Like, it wasn't even bad, but it was still very noticeable. Like, they were working within certain limits, and they were able to make very nice looking images within those limits. But in this movie, like, the characters are more fluid, they move around more, especially when Twilight is singing during the first song, We Got This Together. Like, she's, like, moving her head and mouth as she's singing in ways that they obviously could not do when they were just airing this on TV. So it looks pretty in general, and, like, there's a lot of, like, bright light effects, and, like, at the end of the movie when, like, Sia is singing her song and, like, all the ponies are partying, like, that is, like, legitimately exciting. And I have to admit, as hard as I've been in this movie, and as long as it's been during the show, when it opens with that opening shot, like, when they play the instrumental version of the theme, like, my little pony, and it, like, goes the camera, like, following the Pegasus through the sky, and the Pegasi are spread out over the clouds, I kind of went like this. Sorry if that scared you. But, like, I suddenly felt this surge of emotion welling up and like, oh my god, these are ponies I've been watching since I was a teenager and now they're on the big screen. Like, I did not think I cared that much. But I felt like this well, like this bubble rising in me when I saw that. And, like, something about the music and that shot made me go, like, Jesus, I didn't even have a reaction like that in the last 2 Transformers movies I saw. Like, I don't know where that came from, but apparently I do care way more about this than I thought I did. One other thing I do want to say in the movie's favor is, in the end, Tempest never gets her horn fixed. And I actually like that, because the other, like, Twilight and her friends learn to accept her the way she is. Like, she didn't have to fix herself to fit in, and she realized that the explosive magic that she can do is actually pretty useful. She uses it to fight people off several times in the movie, and at the end she throws off a, again, very pretty fireworks show at Sia's concert. So I do kind of like that they didn't cop out and, like, fix her horn, like, you're normal, just like you've always wanted. Like, she didn't get what she wanted, but she got what she needed. Very obvious, very common trait in stories. So yeah, that's what I can say. There are some nice character moments. The animation is nice. The songs are great. Like, even if you don't see the movie, I'd recommend giving them a listen. If you like Disney musical sounding songs, like, these are some pretty good songs. Like, they're singable, they're fun. The images that go with them are fun. But the film's main problem is just its emotional shallowness, which is pretty strange for a franchise that's based around dealing with your feelings and saving the day. And muffins. But, yeah, it's not a great movie. I'd say it's an okay movie. And that said, when was the last time you saw a 2D animated film in theaters? Was it was it back in Miyazaki, like When the Wind Rises? Like, that's pretty rare for movies nowadays for a 2D movie to get a theatrical release. Not only that, but a movie that's based off a girl's property that has a mostly female main cast with mostly female voice actors, like, that's rare that we see a movie that's so saturated, like girls, and like it's clearly like it's not talking down to girls. It's not a well-told story, but it's also like not like, you know, it doesn't like treat girls as babies the way a movie like Mamma Mia does. Like, this is clearly like trying to be like a functional kids movie, and it's like so saturated and like the fact that it's like basically so like female oriented and full of females, I think is alone makes the movie worth celebrating. It's a shame that it wasn't better, but like the fact that like all these things that are rare to see in a movie were able to happen and be on the big screen is, you know, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, this is a film that I'm glad that it exists and has some good things going for it, but in the most part, it just seems uninspired and seems like it had the potential to be something way better than it was. So anyway, that was my film review for this weekend. Tomorrow I'll be doing another video of Transformers, which apparently will have something to do with molecules oscillating in air that causes a chain reaction, which results in auditory input being accessible by our eardrum to our brain. I think those are called sound waves.